I think it was a mistake buying all this wood. I'm pretty frustrated, guys. I wasn't going to do this video, but you know, if you didn't see the video the other day, I'll show you a clip of that and you can see how much wood I got. So I got a load of the poplar here in my wagon, and there's a reason for that. I'll show you that after. But look at this. You see that on the ends of the wood here? That's a fungus, like it looks like mushrooms. And you know, you get the odd one now and then, it's no big deal, you know, chuck it out or cut it off, like whatever. But I noticed when I was loading it into the woodshed, there was more and more of them, and I split a couple open and they were wet. And I thought all the wood was dry. Like he said, it was sitting for 2 years. But I didn't think it was sitting for 2 years in the same pile. Like I thought he had it somewhere to dry, right? And then he moved it, or no, he didn't move it. He had a customer 2 years ago, special order the poplar, 5 cords. And the guy never showed up. And he still had it this year, and I said, could I try some? Sure, he said. Well, he wants to get rid of it, right? And I mean, there's a lot of the wood is good. Like, how do I know, right? I'll show you that in a minute too, but there's a lot of wood that looks like that. Like the fungus, I'm not going to use that. That's not good to burn in your house, you know, and then it gets hot and then you get all that, maybe that mold or something, whatever's in that wood floating around in your air. Like, it's not healthy. So, and also, some of it's rotten when I split it open. Well, it's going to be like kindling. You're not going to get no heat out of it because it's basically rotten. So, you know, I think I made a mistake by buying it. I should have just bought 3 cords of pine. Let's go in the woodshed. I'll show you how I stacked it. So there's all my pine. There's 2 full cords here and even extra. There's some extra here too because I measured it. It's higher than 48 inches in some areas. But it is 16 feet long by 4 feet deep. But there's a good load here, and this is all dry. The pine is all dry. It's the poplar that has the issue. And this pile here is the wood that's too long. Paraface asked in the last video, is this wood all proper size for your stove? Yes and no. What do I mean by that? Well, some of it is, like this could fit in your wood stove. That's a good piece, but it's too long. So, you know, some of them are, lots of them are the right size, like width and everything, but they're just too long. And there's a little more than I'd like because I use a chainsaw to cut those. And then if they're too big, some of them I'll split. And some of these are the poplar, so I'm definitely going to split them because there's some fungus on that one. Check that out. That's poplar. None of the pine has that. The pine is all good. It's fresher wood. It's this year's supply he had. So the poplar was 2 years. So as I was stacking the poplar, then I started to notice that fungus. So then I started splitting some open, and lots of them were way too wet. One was like, I split it open, a huge one. It was wet, and I thought, am I imagining it? So so I put my moisture meter, and it was just way too high, like almost 30%. Like, it shouldn't be that wet. That's way too high, especially when I thought it was dry. So guess what I've been doing now ever since I seen that? I'm splitting everything. This wood's all good. I tested all this wood. There's nothing wrong with it. It's dry. This is all poplar, but it's ready to burn. Some of it's like 12 to 15%. Now, not every stick I measured. It's impossible to do that, but mostly every one. And I couldn't see, there was no fungus on these ones. And I got a pile back there of poplar. So I've been working like a beaver trying to get this. They're still here. They're still, this could be, I don't know, maybe several wagon loads yet. But I'm going to do that because, you know, I don't want wet wood. I want it's ready to start burning here. We're going into the season now real quick. Yeah, it's starting to get cold really quick. Last night was -3.5 to -4 Celsius. That's about 25 Fahrenheit. We've had a few nights already about that. But even it's afternoon now. It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's starting to finally get better. It's about +7 right now. That's not even 50 degrees Fahrenheit, but I was out here working earlier, so I had to put the hat on because it's getting chilly. It was near freezing when I was doing some work already. So that's why, you know, it's that time, right? You order your firewood, you want it to be dry. You don't start drying wood now. You got to have wood that's ready to go. So I'll show you where I've been putting the stuff that's still too wet. I have this backwood shed. These didn't have mushrooms on them, but some of them were still too, like the moisture was too high. It won't take long now because some of them are really big. That's another thing, like he chops down the tree and then he cuts them into rounds, but he could have split them maybe one more time. Now some of these are way too small, like some might be watching saying, those, you don't need pieces that little. But these have moisture in them, so I want them to dry. The back one is my poplar that's not ready yet. I know that because I was doing those, but these should be all dry already. But now that I cut them down to this size, I can salvage these ones yet. I can dry them. And then there's the other pile I showed you in the other shed. Those are dry. But I made a mistake buying this wood. I shouldn't have bought it. Yeah, you know, I should have known better. Like, I took off my common sense hat, you know. You trust someone and you go somewhere and do something. And, you know, you go into a restaurant and you want to have a nice professional cooked meal and you don't want to worry about it. And I got to worry about where you got the meat from or you didn't cook it right or... That's why you're paying them, right? So, but I guess you always got to keep that common sense hat on, right? If you see something you don't like, maybe you should say, hey, I don't want that one. But like I said, I didn't see many of them. I saw the odd one. I thought, I can deal with it. But, you know, I saw too many. So now, and I'm not even at the bottom there yet. Maybe there's 10 more, 20 more. Who knows? I'm not going to split those. I'm just going to chuck them. But, or maybe I'll bring them back. What do you guys think? Should I call them and tell them there's a lot of rotten wet ones? But, you know, I told my wife that, and Kulika's my wife, and she said, oh, he's a nice old guy, maybe you shouldn't say anything. And his wife has been very sick. She's been dealing with an illness, and, you know, I hate to go over there and, you know, complain, and then, you know, they got their own personal problems, and, like, what would you recommend to the people watching? Would you phone them and say, come and pick it up? But you know, it's not a toaster. Just don't carry that in and say, I want my money back. I have to say, come here and get your truck. We'll load it all up. Takes an hour. Then unload it and then load another load up. And so what I'm thinking is, if there ain't that many, I'm not going to say nothing because he's been pretty good. And he was stuck with all that wood, like 5 cords of it. Some might be saying, what do I care? It's his business, right? But he was stuck with all the wood, and most of it I'm doing okay with. But it's creating me a lot of extra work I don't need. I shouldn't be doing this. With the pine, if it's too big, I split it as I go because it's dry already. So I can split those, like say in January, I'll split a wagon load and then bring it to the house. And it's dry and it burns great. But now that I know some of them are damp, I can't take that chance. I can't split them in January and then they're wet. So now I got to spend several days doing this along with our other chores. So I think I made a mistake. I should have just bought the 3 pine and not this poplar. So I got to get to work now. The last 2 days I've been going about 5-6 hours. I'm splitting everything unless it's small enough and I can stick I have a moisture sensor there, tester, that right there. Then I test it and say, no, it's good enough. Or you can even bang them together. They make like a clinking sound, like they even make a sweet sound, like a ringing sound. You know they're dry. But if they're kind of big, like this one here, I'm not going to split that. I don't need it. I don't need that. But if I get too many of them, then I'll call them and I'll say, hey, I got 50 of these bad ones. Could I come and pick up 50 pieces of pine? And maybe he'll say yes, or maybe he'll say, no, I gave you a good deal and that's why you got a good deal, right? Who knows? And we negotiated with what he had. I was there, so I didn't order it online and they delivered it, so would you be doing what I'm doing and just live with it, or would you complain? Or, and you know the circumstances. His wife has been very ill, and he's been taking on a lot of burden, probably doing all the chores, and she's been in the hospital a lot and surgeries, and maybe I should just let it go, because you know I was there, right? But leave your comment. I'd like to hear what you'd. And you know, I'm no spring chicken anymore. I should know better myself. I shouldn't have bought stuff like this. Like, take a look at that. I shouldn't have bought that. Yeah, it was a mistake. I shouldn't have bought that wood, but I did, and now I'm trying to fix it. And I am. There's a lot of good wood. I'm thinking, you know, 30% of it is still damp. But it's not all mushrooms. If it was 30% mushrooms, then for sure I'd call. Or fungus, whatever you call this. So I can salvage a lot of it, and I don't need it all right now, thank goodness. So maybe it'll be dry by that time when I do need it. So thanks for watching, and give a big thumbs up, and give me some advice if you have any. See you in the next one. I wanted to do a quick update. It's the next day now. I finished cutting all that wood and splitting the rest. And the pile out here with the mushrooms and fungus comes to about 80 pieces. So that's quite a bit of wood that's useless to me. So I'm going to call the guy, and I'll let you know what comes of it in an upcoming video. Like, what happened? Did I get some extra wood for this, or what?